There we go. Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourselves and how you guys got involved in the disability community.
So I'm Jacqueline, and this is my sister Alexa, and we're based in Colorado. And we got involved with Dateability because I'm disabled due to chronic illness, and I really struggled dating on the mainstream dating apps due to my disabilities. And we wanted to change the experience for the world's largest minority.
Yeah, so I'm Jacqueline's older sister. I'm an attorney. And I just kept hearing about Jacqueline's negative experiences and the discrimination she was facing, and any mention of a disability or chronic illness to whoever she was talking to was always, met with offensive comments or inappropriate questions, rejection. And so after a while, Jacqueline and I just got fed up. She's a wonderful person, a wonderful sister. She would make a wonderful partner. And so it's not fair. And I know life isn't fair, but it's really not fair that she was being discriminated against and having to go through this harassment and abuse for something that she can't control, and something that, while it makes up who she is, it doesn't define her entire world. And so I suggested that we make our own dating app for people like her, a safe and inclusive space for people with disabilities and chronic illness to meet each other, and people without disabilities who aren't scared of disability or don't view it as a negative to join and meet other people.
Mm-hmm. So if I could dive into Dateability, what's that all about?
Yeah, so we really were just focused on making a space where people felt comfortable to date, comfortable to disclose, and felt like we wanted to create a space where people didn't feel judged, because that's a feeling that I felt on the other dating apps. And so we created Dateability to be a free dating app available in North America. Hopefully we can expand globally soon. But we really wanted it to be free so that it's accessible and that we can gain the trust of the community. And we made it available on smartphones and a web application, since accessibility is the foundation of Dateability. And something that's unique to Dateability, but aligns with our mission, is the section called Dateability Deets. And it's a section on the app, and it's an extensive list of broad terms that can describe someone's situation. So permanent medical device, wheelchair user, low vision. And this has really been a great way for people to disclose their disability in a way that's vague enough, and it's not really divulging too much personal information, because it doesn't include diagnoses, although anyone can type in and include it. But we wanted it to be like a way to be an icebreaker, a conversation starter, because disclosing my disability was something that I really struggled with.
And I also think it sends a signal of, hey, we at Dateability we don't view disability with shame or in a negative light. So feel free, if you're comfortable, to put this on your profile. It also creates a silent and unspoken understanding among users. I think then, oh, while we don't have the same disability or the same, our disabilities manifest differently, we understand what we're going through. And so we really like that section, and so do our users, and that's great to see.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So how's Dateability different from other online dating apps? If you could walk me through some of the different features, like how is it different from like Bumble or Bit or Hinge or any of these other web dating apps?
Yeah, so we wanted to make Dateability a modern app that visually is very similar to the other apps, but our features are different, like the Dateability Deets section. And we also do have a space for image descriptions next to everyone's profile photos. But functionally, it is similar to the other apps, but our user base is what really makes us unique. Over 90% of our users have a disability or chronic illness. And at the time of recording this, we have over 6,500 users, and people are loving the app and loving having the opportunity to meet people with similar experiences and feeling not judged. And so it's been a really incredible experience.
I also think, just having us and having someone from the disability community behind Dateability is what makes us different, because we always have accessibility and inclusion in mind. We do have a profile verification feature, and it, requires the user to do certain poses, and then we compare those pictures with pictures on their profile before they get a badge. But we understand that despite, we tried to make the poses as accessible as possible. Some of them are just facial expressions, but we understand that there are some users out there who won't be able to do any of them. And so we say, on that verification page, reach out to us if you're unable to do these poses, and we will get you verified another way. And the other apps do not do that.
My next question is like, what sorts of like algorithms used to like find whether somebody is compatible to another person, like, you know what I mean, to find a match, so to speak?
So we've both been on the other dating apps, and we honestly think that the algorithms don't work. They're terrible because, well, neither of us have met anyone on the apps, and they're constantly pushing other people's profiles that, like, right off the bat, just value wise, I know we're not going to get along. And so, I said, when you go, a lot of people, despite the apps becoming like the normal way of meeting people still like the idea of meeting someone organically out at a bar or a restaurant or an event. And so we wanted to recreate that on the app. When you go to a bar, for example, there isn't a bouncer at the door saying like only letting people with similar interests or what an algorithm thinks might be your match into the bar. You are exposed to anyone who walks in there. And so we wanted to recreate that. And so really the algorithm is user generated. So the people who show up as potential matches are people who fall under your age range, your location, whether you have that turned on or not, and then your sexual gender preferences. And that's it. So, and then it's up to the user to decide who they want to talk with.
Like especially during the pandemic, it has been especially difficult for people to find love. People were wearing masks, social distancing, and the whole deal. Like how does Dateability sort of solve that issue? I know like we're past it, but like how did you guys tackle that sort of issue?
Well, we're still wearing masks everywhere indoors, and we only do outdoor dates and socialization. So we're still very much in it, and we understand that a lot of our users are, which I think is really helpful. And we know that our users, a lot of them are safer, and there's that respect. On the other apps, before we launched Dateability, I would tell somebody about my boundaries when it came to COVID, and they would immediately not talk to me ever again. And I think you'll find less of that on Dateability, because people understand, even if they're not practicing, they're not masking everywhere, maybe they do dine indoors, because they're part of the disability community, a lot of them will at least understand why that other user wants to still mask or places importance on, precautions. And so I think that's, very helpful. We do have people who have long COVID who are not disabled before the pandemic, who do have long COVID, who have joined. There are other people who don't have long COVID and they're not disabled, but they are still very safe with COVID, joining the apps because they know that they have joining Dateability because they know they have a better chance of meeting someone on there with similar, lifestyles right now than on Hinge and Bumble, where the majority of those people have moved on and are doing everything like it's 2019.
Yeah, and to really help the community who does rely on virtual companionship, we have made the location function optional, and so people can search for users who are in their 100-mile radius, but users can also search for companionship outside of that 100-mile radius just with the switch of a toggle. And we wanted to do that for our community who is relying on these virtual companionships. So yeah, just with the switch of a toggle, you'll be able to see the other users that fall within your preferences, but who are all across the app.
And that is a function that other apps charge you for. So we think it's pretty cool that it's free.
There are some people who are on the fence about using dating apps, like how do you sort of reach out to those people and say, hey, like data, here's some benefits that Dateability has, because my parents, they're older and they don't use any of that stuff. I don't either, to be honest with you. So like, how do you reach out to that key constituent base?
Yeah, I think, it took me a while to come around to the apps as well, admittedly. I think that the world, especially for the disability community, it's so inaccessible and it can cause a lot of stress to have to go out into the world and try to meet someone organically. I know it's hard to begin with, especially after the pandemic. A lot of people are more closed off. They're not as willing to come up to another person's table and start a conversation, or activities have changed. So I think for those people, it's easier. It doesn't totally eliminate the possibility. It doesn't eliminate at all the possibility you'll meet somebody at the grocery store or at an event, but it opens your world up to a whole group of people that you might never ever meet even if you are super social. They're all over the country and it's also free. So what do you have to lose? It's not like you have to pay for anything. Just get on there, start browsing, and you never know.
Yeah, I struggle with putting myself out there, and a dating app for me is a great way to do that. It's really easy for me to upload my photos and fill out my profile. And then, even if you just take 5 minutes out of your day and to swipe or to, go through your likes, I think it's a great way to, put yourself out there and see who you can meet.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, how can Dateability create like a new approach to dating?
Yeah, we really want to make love accessible through Dateability, and I think we're achieving that. We want our community to have this inclusive space and have a safe space to date and to find companionship. And it's just, we want people to know that disabled people date, and that it is human nature to want to find that love, and that disabled people are not what's the right word, are not looking for love. And so that we really want to change the mission and the vision of disabled dating.
That's cool. That's awesome.